Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has been ordered by New York State's public ethics panel to forfeit the millions he made off his 2020 pandemic book deal. According to the Wall Street Journal, these profits amount to at least $3.1 million. Cuomo has been given 30 days to hand over the money to State Attorney General Letitia James's office.
A lawyer for the former governor said the decision is politically motivated and threatened that should the panel seek to enforce this action, quote, we'll see them in court. Here to break it all down is host of the Katie Halper Show and co-host of the Useful Idiots podcast, Katie Halper. Katie, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
They're telling him he's got to give the money back. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think that the fact that he did use his office to work on the book does make it very problematic for him to make any money off of it. I'm not sure why it's going to the Attorney General's office. I actually was wondering if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not sure this is they have to try to enforce it, right? Which is, I imagine this is going to be extremely difficult to do. I mean, in one sense, like, they're right that it's politically motivated. It is politically motivated. Right. This is a political issue and a political question. It might be rightly politically motivated, and I just can't believe he made millions on this book. Is like kind of, that sucks just on its own. That enough people bought this terrible book from a clown figure.
Well, I don't think people bought it, right, Katie? I mean, I think...
Oh, it's the advance.
Right.
It's the advance.
I think he only sold 40 or 50,000 copies.
That's even worse. Whoever the publisher is, I shouldn't badmouth them. They might be, for all I know, they're my publisher. But why did you pay millions for this terrible book?
Right, but Katie, often aren't these publishers buying something more than... It's more than just a business investment when it comes to sitting politicians who have presidential aspirations, right?
It does, and it does legitimize him to have get his book sales. I mean, I think that this is a tainted book, and it does need to be treated as a tainted book. I'm a little bit unsure about the best way to do that, and there is this whole other phenomenon that we really should look into, which is how Republicans in particular buy their own books in bulk. I know that there's investigations into the way that Ted Cruz does it. He basically used fundraising to buy his own book and to urge people to buy his own book. So that's under investigation. So I do think there's a very gross kind of incestuous relationship that goes on between publishing, fundraising, and political campaigning.
I just don't know why politicians aren't treated the same way college athletes are. You know, where it's like, look, if you are in office and you are a public servant, then you cannot make money off of being a public servant. I mean, if we can have these sorts of restrictions on college athletes, why can't we have these restrictions on politicians? I don't know what we can do, but it just bothers me so much that politicians can get in office and then they just enrich themselves. And these are the ways that they enrich themselves.
He didn't even wait till he left office to enrich himself. He was trying to enrich himself while still supposed to be managing a horrific once-in-a-century pandemic.
Right. And the fact that he was engaging in a cover-up at the time, and again, I mean, the cover-up is enough, honestly, to make him, I think, criminal. But the fact that he used his own staff to work on this, and they said that they volunteered, but come on, let's be real. Like, someone's going to volunteer, like they don't have a lot of stuff to do for the governor, especially when they have to cover for him covering up nursing home deaths and the scandal. And this, I mean, what I like about this news is that it's finally taking into account something that we only really heard about because of justifiably disturbing and alarming, and it deserved attention, of course, but the Me Too story that Cuomo was engaged in. But the whole nursing home death story was so, he would have gotten away with that had it not been for the Me Too thing, which kind of led to this investigation. Like, well, since we're looking into the sexual harassment, we might as well look into this other thing where he has a lot of blood on his hands for killing seniors. And at least, what we definitely know is he covered it up.
Right, and while I think, why I think he does deserve to lose his money is that exact reason, the nursing home scandal, because the nursing home scandal was not peripheral to this, it was central, because the topic of his book was how wonderfully I did at handling the pandemic. And so it was deeply inconvenient that a policy that he had implemented had led to thousands of people dying.
True,
and
right.
so he therefore had to cover it up, not for political gain, which that's one thing, but for commercial gains in order for him to be able to go forward with the book. Katie, you and I have talked about. Yeah, go ahead.
He monetized. No, sorry, you're right. He monetized the cover-up. I mean, it was for political gain, but it was also for commercial gain. Yeah.
Right. And you and I have talked about the seedier side of this, which is that corporations have been putting morality clauses into contracts, which is not because corporations have become moral. Right. It's not because they're just earnestly trying to improve the behavior of people around the world. What these clauses are becoming is a new way for a company, if it wants to cut bait from somebody, to just be able to ditch them. Now, I'm happy to see Cuomo's fall here, but in general, this is something worth thinking harder about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I do think that in the case of like Chris Cuomo, right? Was this dealt with? Was this applied?
No, you're right. That was a Chris Cuomo situation.
But I think it's an important thing to remember, because I do think that, if anything, I mean, CNN should be cutting the salaries of its own CEOs for the way that they handled this. I mean, I get
where's their morality clause?
Yeah, where's their own morality clause? They knew this stuff. They knew it was inappropriate. Chris Cuomo had apologized for his handling of it, but then said family first, which is great. I'm glad you think family first. I mean, I'm not sure if it's good for shattering the image of the omerta stuff that the Cuomos have going on. But anyway, and that has nothing to do with their being Italian. It has to do with their being kind of a thuggish gang. And as we know, of course, and some of my best friends are Italian. But I
am very concerned about anti-Italian discrimination.
Next, you're going to come for Columbus. Katie's going to get canceled.
I know. She didn't know she was talking to a real Italian here. I know I can put words together better than you might have expected, Katie.
Oh, I did not know. You non-Italian pass. You have a WASP aspect. I'm definitely
I do.
You're going to get canceled by some WASP.
Yep. I pass. I'm passing, even though I'm Italian, right?
Right. Cultural appropriation, though. But as we know, he was called Fredo. Chris Cuomo was called Fredo, and said that that's like the N-word for Italians.
Yeah,
which makes it very awkward to order certain meals, of course. But yeah, I do think that we should look at what I don't want to see happen is for instance, like CNN to be able to kind of wash its hands of this and put it all on Chris Cuomo. I mean, they made decisions. They let this person cover his brother in a very glowing way, and then they thought it was an acceptable kind of remedy to have him not cover his brother once things were going badly, which really was the net effect of that, is to sanitize and deify Andrew Cuomo, which is what we saw with the whole movement of Cuomo sexuality that took a little bit to knock down.
And let's all
conversion therapy with that.
Let's all do everything we can to memory hole that moment. But Katie, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll have more Rising right after this.